Hey y'all, welcome to Criminally Creative. This is episode 4, and today is Saturday, June 9th. My name is Susan. I'm known as Legal Eagle on Ravelry, and you can also find me on Instagram as Criminally Creative Podcast. Today is Worldwide Knitting Public Day, but after the week I've had at work, I didn't feel like going anywhere, so it's Worldwide Knitting Private Day for me, and I thought I would film a podcast and share with y'all what I have been working on. This episode will contain hearsay, verdicts, courts in session, a little bit of stashing for retirement, and also some book briefs. So let's get started. First, I'll start with what I'm wearing. This is the Gemini top. I knit this actually back in about 2016. I knit it in Juniper Moon Farms Zoe DK, and the colorway is called Sloop. I wore this to work a couple of times after I knit it and realized because this yarn has some cotton in it, this neckline just grew and grew. And by the end of about the second time I wore it, it was here. So I pulled it out recently and did a couple of rows of single crochet around the neckline to draw it in, and also a couple of decreases right here at the corners. So I need to block it a little bit again because it's curling up, but I had it in my craft room, so I thought I'd wear it today to show you an older finished object. But hopefully now that I've done this, I can wear it to work without my neckline being over my shoulders by the end of it. So anyway, I wanted to start it with hearsay because it's been about 3 weeks since I've talked to y'all, and we've had something going on every single weekend. In fact, this is the first weekend in about 6 weeks that we have not had at least one day of something that we had to go to. So I really enjoy seeing family and doing things with friends, but after a while you just want a weekend at home, and that was kind of this week. Like I said, especially after what was really probably my first really crazy week at work of this session. So a couple things that we've done since last time I talked to you. We spent a weekend with our friends Scott and Marianne. They live just south of Charlotte in South Carolina, and they have recently completed an addition to their house that included a bar. So we spent a weekend with them to christen the bar, which was a lot of fun. We always have a good time with them. They're the couple that we traveled on a cruise with earlier this year and are going to New York City in October for my 50th birthday with. So, and Scott actually said he watched a little bit of this podcast. He has no interest in knitting, but I appreciate you watching, Scott, if you're watching anymore. So the weekend after that was Memorial Day weekend here in the United States, which is a 3-day weekend. We get Monday off, but it was also a couple of days before that weekend was my youngest grandson Alden's first birthday. So that Saturday we had a party down at my daughter and son-in-law's house in Charlotte to celebrate his first birthday. He is growing way too fast and pretty much toddling around everywhere, but that's what kids do. So we had a good time with that. And then this past weekend was mine and my husband Rob's 18th wedding anniversary. So we spent the weekend up in West Jefferson, North Carolina, in Ashe County, which is the area that we are hoping to eventually retire to when we get to retire. We actually have just started looking for a property up there in the hopes that we can find something that we can do weekends between now and retirement, and eventually retire and maybe build a larger place. So this past weekend was the first time that we had actually met with a realtor and gone out and looked at property, and haven't found anything yet. It's probably going to take us a while to find what we're looking for, but we had a good time doing that, and we always enjoy that area. So as part of that, on Sunday we went to the Blue Ridge Fiber Fest, which was a brand new Fiber Fest. This was its first year. It was in Sparta, North Carolina, which is in Allegheny County, right next to Ashe County. It was Saturday and Sunday. We just went Sunday for a couple of hours on our way out of the area, heading back home. Didn't want to subject Rob to spending an entire day looking at yarn. So we just wandered around and talked to a couple of vendors that I knew, and met some new people, and looked at a few animals and bought a few goodies. But it was a smaller festival, but they had a good selection of vendors, particularly for our first year, and so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully maybe it'll grow, and I would definitely go check it out again. So hopefully it will continue from year to year, and will grow into something. North Carolina doesn't really have a good festival in the spring, summer months. We have SAF in October in Asheville, and we have Carolina Fiber Fest in Raleigh earlier in March, but we don't have a kind of a summery one. So if they continue to do kind of the June up in the mountains where it's a little bit cooler, hopefully they'll do well. So let's get to verdicts. I don't have a ton this time, but after 3 weeks I do have a couple things. Starting with the small things, I have knit a couple more dishcloths. Like I said, I'm just kind of repopulate my dishcloth drawer. These are both knit out of Premier Yarns home cotton that I bought at Joann's. I did place a substantial Knit Picks dishy order that came in a couple weeks ago. So I now have plenty of dishcloth cotton. I'm probably going to knit a few for my daughter. Really likes the dishcloths, and I also make some scrubbies by cutting strips of tulle and knitting that with cotton, and I need some more of those myself. So you'll probably see a few more of those in the future. Another thing that I finished is I made a little monster buddy. The Old North State Knitting Guild in Raleigh, North Carolina is doing monsters for the UNC Chapel Hill Cochlear Implant Center. They like to give every child that has a cochlear implant put in a little monster buddy, and my understanding is they actually attach a little, I don't know if it's plastic or felt or what, but they attach a little miniature cochlear implant on the sides of the monsters, and I think put little hearts on their chest too as well. But the guild has been over the past year knitting some, and I had not gotten around to doing one. This pattern is Monster Buddy by Claire Hickman Clemens, and I just made it out of some Caron Simply Soft that I had around. Put some button eyes, and I did some little, the pattern has you pick up and knit arms out. I just did some I-cord and kind of flattened it out for arms and then sewed it on and put a little bit of hair in the mouth and called it good. But I need to make a couple more of these because this really only took me probably 4 or 5 hours to make, so they're relatively easy to knock out. And then the only other knitting project that I finished is my addition by subtraction shawl. Pardon me while I flip my page on my notes. Y'all had seen most of this, I think, but this was the mystery knit along that I was doing that had the kind of mystery story with it. I think last time I was here I was working on this section, which is kind of the illusion knitting. I may have blocked that just a little too hard. I think I lost a little bit of the illusion there. And then the last section was this, which was a stitch. I can't remember what the stitch was called now, but it was a stitch I had never done before, which I found interesting. And then the epilogue was to do an I-cord that then wove back through this big yarn over edge that had been created. The pattern actually called for you to knit the I-cord attached, and it was actually a purled I-cord. I wasn't having that. I wasn't doing all that. So I have one of those little crank I-cord makers, and so I did a 4-stitch I-cord. I actually made it longer than it needed to be because I did this before blocking and wove it in and wanted to have extra room. And then I left the extra length and just kind of tied it off, and so that way, you know, I can use them as ties or something later if I want to. It created a little loop. The pattern called for these loops, which would, you know, let you slide the shawl through as you wear it and stuff. You know, eventually I might trim those down if I see I don't really use them, but I hadn't decided yet. I enjoyed the mystery knit along. I liked the variation in the stitches and the little story to go with it was really cute. My only irritation was there were 4 clues and then there was an epilogue, and I had finished all 4 clues and I knew the epilogue was coming out on Friday and we were going out of town, and so I had thrown this in thinking I would do the epilogue while we were gone, except that when the pattern came out and we were already out of town, the very first part of the epilogue was block your shawl, which I was kind of annoyed because they could have told me that at the end of clue 4. Do clue 4 and block your shawl in preparation for the epilogue. I just ignored that, and then when I saw that they wanted you to purl an I-cord, I just set the whole thing aside and waited till I got home anyway. So and then I cranked the I-cord, ran it through, and then I blocked the whole thing with it, and it doesn't, I'm fine with it. Doesn't make any difference. But anyway, I think, to me, it would have been better if they had told you at the end of clue 4, go ahead and block your shawl. You still had like 3 or 6 stitches on the needle, I think, at that point. But, you know, they told you to block it with those 6 stitches on the needle, so it just would have been more conducive to a pleasant experience if they had told you that at the end of clue 4. I have noticed this is now a paid pattern, so if you didn't do the mystery knit along, apparently about a week or so after the last clue, it completely went to paid. And if you had not updated your pattern and downloaded the clues to your Ravelry library, apparently there are several people who did not realize that and do not have all the clues. I learned a long time ago with mystery knit-alongs that come out in parts, because some designers give the mystery knit-along free in order to get more pattern pages and everything up there, but then they turn into a paid pattern, and that's perfectly fine. That's their right. But I learned a long time ago that even if I'm not keeping up with the pattern, I need to update my pattern as soon as the new clues come out, because the time period between the last clue and that pattern going paid is sometimes very short for some of the patterns. So just a tip, if you ever do any mystery knit-alongs, that even if you're not keeping up with the clues in the knitting, you need to keep up with downloading, or not necessarily downloading your clues, but updating your pattern library on Ravelry, so that the next clue goes into your library and is there to download when you want to. I am doing Stash Dash this year. For those of you who don't know, Stash Dash is a summer kind of knit-along thing that the knit girls do while Laura is out of school for the summer, and it's kind of compete against yourself type thing. It's not really competition. They have historically done prizes. I think this year they're not even doing prizes quite the same way. They're kind of going to do random prizes throughout the event. It's not, I don't do it for prizes. I do it as kind of a motivational thing to try to get some stuff done. That started the Friday of Memorial Day, the 25th, I think, whatever that day was, and it continues until sometime towards the end of August. I don't remember the exact date this year, but the goal is to kind of pick a meterage goal and try to finish stuff, or start and finish stuff. And anything that you finish within that time period, you get to count the whole yardage. So with those items that I just showed you, I am at just a little over 1,000 meters for this year. Right now I have a tentative goal of 10,000 meters. I might up that to 15,000. I don't know. We'll see. I haven't decided yet. I usually kind of see how I'm doing about late July and then decide if I'm really going to push the last couple weeks to hit a higher goal. So if you like imaginary deadlines and motivational things, and you want to get some stuff done this summer, then I strongly suggest you check out Stash Dash. You can go to the Knit Girls Ravelry group and get more information about that. So now I will move into Court is in Session. As I've mentioned previously, I tend to have a lot of projects on the needles at any given time, and I work a little bit on this and a little bit on that. So in the past 3 weeks or so, I have worked a little bit here and a little bit there on a lot of projects. So I'm not going to show you all of them. The 3 projects that I have worked on, some that I'm not going to show you just because I don't think the state they're in is all that interesting or different from last time. The sleeves for the friend sweater that I'm knitting, I am working on those. I'm about up to the elbows from cuff up. I also have been working on my Maryland sheep and wool sock blank that I got, that I showed you before. I just turned the heels on those socks the other night, and so I'm on the legs, and we'll probably have those finished next time. And I also have done a couple more squares on my sock blanket, but I'll probably wait until I get a few more of those done before I show you that again. So those are the whips that I have worked on but aren't showing you. So let me show you a couple different things today. I believe I mentioned in a previous episode that I was working on a pavement sweater by Vera Valimaki. I finished the body, I don't know, a month or so ago, and I have been kind of languishing with the sleeves, but I am trying to get them done. I'm getting there. Right now I'm trying to decide if I'm going to do the 3/4 sleeves that the pattern calls for, or if I'm going to do full length sleeves. I had originally thought I'd do full length, but now I'm kind of leaning towards the 3/4 length. I say this is the pavement sweater by Vera Valimaki. It is. It's hopefully going to look very much like it when I'm done. I am making quite a few modifications just to I did the raglan shaping different, and my stitch counts are different because I'm knitting at a little bit denser gauge and that sort of thing. I'll show you more of those when I actually finish it and can hold the whole garment up, because right now I've got 2 sleeves on the needles that are kind of twisted. But I want to show you, I'm knitting this in Leading Men Fiber Arts Show Stealer base, which is an 80-10-10 merino cashmere nylon blend. This is the Quantum Leap colorway, which was the April 2017 colorway. I saw this colorway last year and my 80s heart had to have the purple and pink. If you're of an age similar to mine, you may remember the TV show Quantum Leap that had, I can't think of the actor's name, but he's now on NCIS New Orleans, where he was like leaping through time and into people's bodies. And I loved that show when I was like, I think it was like junior high school that came out. But the pink and purple and gray is perfect, spot on for the whole opening thing of the show and the little swirly thing that happened every time when he leaped through time. But anyway, I saw this colorway and decided I had to have a sweater in it. It may be a little young looking, I don't know, I don't care. This is going to end up being about tunic length on me, so fingering weight. I am knitting this on US 4s, which is 3.5 millimeter, and the garter stitch on US 2.5, 3 millimeter, just to make that a little snugger. So hopefully by the next time I podcast, I will have the sleeves finished. I'm, again, about to the elbow from top down. Because I'm modifying so much, I am doing the sleeves 2 at a time. That way I don't have to mark and remember from one sleeve to the other where I decreased and, you know, how long I knit before I decreased and that sort of stuff. So it's a little bit fiddly, particularly since I have to kind of twist them around, but, you know, I don't care. I'd rather do it that way and have them come out exactly the same length. All the rest of the whips I'm going to show you are new cast-ons since the last time we talked. I have, oh, and I forgot to tell you, excuse me, that is in a Jan Smiley bag. This was the Caroline Faber Frolic bag, Spring 2017. My next project is in, this is my Fat Squirrel Hedgehog bag that I bought at Needles Up at Maryland. Isn't it cute? The little hedgehogs are like little flowers. This is the novelty, and I'm looking for the picture, the decent picture, somewhere. There it goes. By Laura Nelkin. And it's a short sleeve cotton sweater. This pattern is currently only available as a Craftsy kit. But if you go to the pattern page on Ravelry, I believe that there's still a 50% off code for the whole kit. And it really turned out to be a pretty good deal for the yarn and everything. This is the Cloudborne Fibers Pima Cotton DK from Craftsy in the powder blue color. This is one of Laura's, I can't remember, I think she has a name for the style of the pattern, but it is, you start with the, you knit from the sleeve up, and then you're knitting the, like, here's the sleeve, you're knitting the front and the back, and then you attach a second ball of yarn for the open of the neck, and then you go back again, and then you, in this case, you're going to knit a lace panel up the sides to join the two halves. So I have done the sleeve, and I have just barely started the front and back of the body. So I haven't gotten very far on this, but as soon as I finish the sleeves on that pavement sweater, this is going to get a lot more attention, because I would like to get it finished hopefully by the end of this month so I can actually wear it some this summer. I'm liking the Cloudborne cotton. It is not too stiff. With the Pima, it's, you know, a little softer than, say, dishcloth cotton, so it doesn't really bother me that much. You know, cotton doesn't have a lot of give, so a lot of people feel like they can't knit it but for so long. I haven't really had that much problem with it, but then again, like I said, I haven't been putting a lot of time into that. I just wanted to get it started and on the needles so I could work on it as I had time. The next pattern I wanted to show you is in my fringe filled bag, which I've shown you before. I don't think I've gotten any buttons since I last showed you a project in this. This is called the Depth Cowl by Talitha Kuomi. I'm not sure how to pronounce that last name. K-U-O-M-I. This is a pattern that is kind of an exercise in intentional pulling. The yarn is the fiber seed sprout sock, This is a fingering weight, but I am actually knitting this on US 8s, 5 millimeters, which the pattern calls for you to do at a much looser gauge. And I'm not sure if you can see. So the plan is that the way the yarn, you intentionally pull the yarn. So that the variegated is all together and the solid is all together. This colorway is called the Knit Girls. This is part of the Great Knit Off, which is being run by the Fiber Seed, the yarn dyer. And what she did is she got 3 podcasters, the Knit Girls, the Knitmore Girls, and Little Bitty Delights, who I'm not familiar with. I need to look her up, to come up with 3 colorways, or give her, I guess they gave her color suggestions, and she created the colorways. And also 20% of the proceeds for the yarn is going to the charity of the podcaster's choice. So the Knit Girls are doing PetSmart charities. I think the Knitmore Girls are doing a rescue organization of some sort, and Little Bitty Delights is doing a breast cancer type charity. So it started June 1st, so I decided to participate. I've looked at this pattern several times and just hadn't got around to it. I had some of the Fiber Seeds yarn in my stash already that I had not used, but I really like the Knit Girls colorway. So I'm doing Teen Knit Girls, and mainly because of the 3 podcasts, that's the one I watched the most, and I did like their colorway choice the best. So that is a long cowl that's like, it's a tube, and eventually you graft it together at the end, or seam it together at the end, so it'll be a long drape around the neck. And then the last thing to show you as far as works in progress, I have started my Christmas knitting. So what I'm getting ready to show you, I'm doing for my sister Julie for Christmas. So Julie, if by chance you're watching this, I don't know if you do, and do not want part of your Christmas gift to be spoiled, you need to turn away now, and probably turn the sound off too, because I'm going to talk about the colors. So giving you just a minute. This is in a Christmas bag. I like to put my Christmas knitting in Christmas bags just because it kind of reminds me that's what it is. This is a Grinch one. This bag is from the Silver Shed USA on Etsy. This is her dumpling style bag. What I like about this is these little things kind of flop down, and it makes it sit up a little better. So hopefully, if Julie was watching, she's not watching anymore. She's decided she wants her Christmas gift spoiled, but this is the Peeping Cowl by Joji Locatelli. Let me set that up there and hopefully not shake too much. Yeah, set it down there. No, then I can't get to it. Anyway, this is one of those patterns. You know how you see patterns and the pattern picture just go, you kind of go, you know, not bad, not great, whatever. This pattern has been out forever, and I never really had, it just never was really drawn to it. And then I saw a sample knit up of this from the Fiber Studio at Yarns to Die For when they were at Carolina Fiber Frolic in March, and I loved it. So you know, I always have to remind myself, you know, because when I see like a pattern that's done and the pattern picture is in a color that is just not my colors, to think and go and really look at the pattern, because you know, I'm drawn to color, and for some reason the pattern picture for this pattern just never got my attention. But once I saw the cowl knit up in person and in some other colors, I really liked it because I like the different textures. So I am knitting this in the Fiber Studio at Yarns to Die For cashmere silk fingering, which is a 65% cashmere goat, 35% silk. So it is very, very soft. I mean, really rub against your skin soft. Right now it's a bit Miami Dolphins looking. My sister's favorite colors are teal and orange, so I'm doing this in, this is teal. I'm not sure how teal it's really coming across. Sand dune, which is kind of a tanny beige. I mean, yeah, beige with just a hint of tan to it. Harvest, which is a, I guess I'd call it a shrimpy orange. And then the fourth color that I haven't started yet is charcoal, which is just a kind of a medium charcoal gray. So far all I've done is the big section of teal, and I've just started striping the sand dune and the harvest in there. But go look at that pattern. I really like all the different textures, and it highlights each of the 4 colors individually, and then also kind of gradually stripes up. I am knitting this on US 2.75 millimeters Chalgu red lace. Poke me not on there as usual. So I've just started working on that, and you know, a little bit here and there. I've started trying to think about my Christmas plans. I don't always knit something for everybody for Christmas, but I usually have a few things that I want to do, and then sometimes I get a wild hair in about October and decide to knit everybody a hat or everybody socks or something like that. But I'm hoping to avoid the craziness of got to get it done right before Christmas this year by starting some of that early. So that's it for Quartz in Session. I thought I should show you a little bit of stashing for retirement. Like I said, I've kind of decided not to show you every time I buy yarn, because quite honestly I do buy a lot of yarn, and I don't really want this to drag out, you know, longer than an hour an episode if all possible. But and I do put all of my yarn purchases are in my stash on Ravelry. My Ravelry stash has all of the yarn I own, with the exception of maybe a couple of skeins of Karen Simply Soft here or there, or you know, acrylic or something that I've bought for some purpose and haven't used up. But so if you're ever interested in seeing what I've bought recently, you can go to my Ravelry stash, and if you just sort by date added, you'll be able to see what I've bought recently. But I wanted to show you a couple things. The first thing, this is a spoiler. If you ordered the Hue Loco Grocery Girls Knit 2 Together for June and have not received yours yet, then turn away, and if you don't want to hear it described, turn the sound off for a few minutes. So this is the June. It is called it's her Phyllis sock, which is a 75/25 merino nylon, and the colorway is called It's So You. These are colorways that she's doing. I think she's doing 6 of them. Yeah, started in May, and you can order each month. You do not have to order all 6 at once. So I did order May, and this is June. I'm probably going to order July. I've just kind of been playing it by ear. There's a story to go with each one. I have not watched the most recent Grocery Girls episode yet for them to find out what this story is, but they usually, in an episode shortly after the colorway comes out, kind of tell the story behind it. So what they did is they gave, I think her name is Nicole for Hue Loco, they gave her like 6 childhood memories, and she translated those into yarn colorways. So this one is called It's So You. It has 2 mini skeins that are 50 grams, or 2 half skeins that are 50 grams. One is mostly blue and white with some pink, and the other one is mostly pink and white with a hint of blue. And then there is a dark kind of, I think it's black. To me, it's not quite black. It's like so charcoal dark gray, it's almost black. Mini skein to go with it. And so that'll be something fun. I don't know what it'll be. The other 2 things I wanted to show you is I recently ordered a couple skeins from Daydream Dye Works. She has an Etsy shop. This is her 9 to 5 base, which is also a 75/25, 100 grams, 463 yards. This colorway is Harvest Moon, and blues and yellows with a little bit of charcoal. I'm a sucker for blue and yellow. And then this one, I don't know, I'm not sure why I was so drawn to this when I saw her posted on Instagram, but this is called June. And I have had a little bit of her yarn before, but I've not bought a bunch of it, so I'm not sure if she's doing just a different colorway each month. And this was June's, and then maybe there's a July coming. This to me is very much garden, you know, greens and some bright purpley, burgundy flowers, yellow. I just really liked the colors of this. So this is very variegated. This one, when you unwind the skein, is a little more, it's going to knit up variegated, but there's definitely blocks of how it was dyed around. So it's like blue, yellow, charcoal yellow, blue, yellow. This one, when I unwound it, is much more variegated, and I'm not sure if that's just because that's been reskeined or not, but Anyway, I don't know what those will be yet. They will end up in something. Um, I did buy a couple things at Blue Ridge Fiber Fest. I got Fiber Studio at Yarns to Die For, who makes that cashmere yarn I showed you. They had a new singles base, so I bought a couple skeins of that. I think maybe to make my mother-in-law something for Christmas. I haven't decided yet. I also bought 2 skeins from a dyer that was new to me called Rhapsody in Hue. I'm not generally a pastel person, and her color, it's like I can't think how to describe her colors. They weren't really so much pastel as they weren't so intensely dyed, if that makes any sense. So the colors I bought from her were just a solid blue, and then I got one that was very beachy looking, that is mostly tans with a little bit of blues, and totally not my normal, but for some reason I was really drawn to it. And then also Ashley from Twist Fiber Studio, who I could never resist buying something from her every time I see her. She had some mystery bags that were for sale, on sale, because there were some colorways that she wasn't dyeing anymore, that she just had some left over that she was trying to destock. And so you didn't know what you were getting in the bag. And I picked up a bag that had 4 skeins in it, 2 DK and 2 worsted. I went for that just because my DK and worsted stash is not as large, intentionally, because I don't knit as much of that weight. But I've found recently that, I'll see a hat pattern, I want to make a hat, and I don't have a random skein of worsted weight to do it with. So I've been trying to add a little bit of that to my stash. So I got several colors from her. And again, that is all on my Ravelry stash if you're interested in seeing all of that. So the last thing I want to talk about was just a little bit of book briefs. I have kind of entered the time of the year in the summer where most of my reading on Kindle and actual books tends to be light, irrelevant fluff, romance, stuff that I can read in 3 or 4 hours and move on and not get so immersed in that I can't put it down. Part of that tends to be just because of the hours I work this time of year, and needing kind of an escape, and also not having a bunch of time to read and really get into things. So on audio, I just finished The Punishment She Deserves by Elizabeth George, which is the latest Inspector Lindley, Barbara Havers installment. I really like that series, but the last couple have just been really long. I mean, this on audio was 22 hours long, which is just long for a mystery book. I felt like it probably could have been about half that. A lot of the story plot line was just dragged out, and by the end of it, I had pretty much already figured it out and was just ready for them to tell me I was right. So I did enjoy the book, and I enjoy the Inspector Lindley, Barbara Havers. The whole Isabel Ardrey character just kind of annoys me, but anyway, I will probably keep reading the books or listening to the books, but that's my only complaint, is it has gotten a little bit long. On audio now, I am listening to Anne Cleeves, and I'm listening to the 3rd of the Vera Stanhope series, which is Hidden Depths. Anne Cleeves is the author of the Shetland series, that is now the Shetland BBC show that I love, a lot of people love. And Vera Stanhope, I think, is actually, I'm not sure if the Stanhope came before Jimmy Perez or not, but the only one I had ever read was the Jimmy Perez Shetland series. So I've been slowly working my way in audio through the Vera Stanhope series, and I'm enjoying that so far. So other than that, that's about it. Like I said, a bunch of light fluff that I can read like almost one a day. I finish one every 2 days at most. But always something reading, because I just enjoy reading. So that's about it. Like I said, work is really busy right now. There is a chance they will actually finish up next week, so I might only have one more week of crazy, maybe a couple more weeks crazy, but there's a really good chance that they will be out by the end of June, and that will be nice to actually have a July that we have a little bit of time off, so or can take a little bit of time off. But other than that, work is about it, and knitting where I can. I am doing a little bit of spinning that I didn't show you today because I don't even have one bobbin finished. So I haven't done much of the bob and lace. My teacher that I was taking from was in Europe for a month. She's just returned, but because of my work schedule, I can't really schedule anything right now. So hopefully I'll get back to that soon. So anyway, thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed what I had to show, and I hope you'll come back again. And please leave a comment here on YouTube or on the Ravelry group where I'll start a thread. I am going to try to create a little bit of show notes on the Ravelry thread for this episode. I just haven't gotten around to that before, but I am going to try to start doing that. And again, all of my projects are on Ravelry. All of my stash that I purchase is on Ravelry, and I do keep all of that updated. So, or if you have any questions, let me know. And thank you for joining me. Talk to y'all later. Bye.